and get this thing going. All right, welcome everyone, and hello, welcome to Create Virginia. This is the 5th Create Virginia that we have hosted. The last time that we had it was in February of 2020, and for a lot of us, it was the last thing that we had before the world kind of shut down. So it's been a weird year, but we are happy to still be able to present some virtual sessions this year. I know things are reopening, but this just felt natural now after coming off of a year in quarantine. So the Create Virginia Conference, it supports artists and performers across the Commonwealth. Improve your art by helping you get control of the business side of things. We know you know how to make art. We want to help you spread the joy and thought it provokes, and make some money too. So you can see a growing list of Create Virginia workshops at createvirginia.com. My name is Susan Brown. I am the Create Virginia Program Coordinator, and here with us today is Charese Jefferson. She is going to be our fearless program leader this morning. Create Virginia is a production of the Virginia Small Business Development Center that serves the Lynchburg region, the Academy Center of the Arts located in downtown Lynchburg, and the Office of Economic Development and Tourism here in Lynchburg, Virginia. Today's webinar is supported by the Virginia Small Business Development Center. With 29 centers across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small business entrepreneurs. The Virginia SBDC is headquartered in George Mason University, and the program that is a cooperative agreement between the U.S. Small Business Administration, premier institutions across Virginia, and our local governments. Charese is a bookkeeper with specialized area of work with nonprofits and small business owners. She draws upon more than, this might have been an old bio, Charese, so I have 14 years, but I think it's up since then.
Yes, for sure. I've been doing taxes since 2006.
See,
don't be trying to figure out how old I am, y'all. Don't be trying to figure out how old I am.
So she is in the fields of tax preparation that lays the foundation for guidance and bookkeeping to help new entrepreneurs create long-term sustainability and accountability with their business finances. Over her career, she has had the opportunity to speak to multiple industries on how to set budgets, create service and product pricing, and tax education for small business owners. As a QuickBooks professional, she helps small business owners know their numbers in a way that makes sense. Charese speaks regularly on panels, working groups, webinars, and at conferences. She has also been featured in a variety of publications, including Lynchburg Business, articles like Millennial on the Move, Women Leaders of the World, and Collective Purpose. She has, and this also is an old bio because it says she has a weekly podcast, but we know she has 2 podcasts.
Yes.
You guys can follow. I will let her give you all the pertinent information on those, but definitely recommend them, and follow her on Instagram too, because I do. And if you're like me, you might even get some love on your stories.
Yeah.
So you can see other webinars that are coming up at virginiasbdc.org, sbdclynchburgregion.org. You can also check out the Virginia SBDC's recovery resource page. They're working to add more training titles in the coming weeks, so stay tuned. And we will be making this webinar available afterwards, so we are recording it. And if you have any questions during the session, please go ahead and put those in the chat. I will be monitoring them, and we will revisit them near the end of the webinar. So without further ado, Charese, I'm turning it on over to you.
Thank you so much, Susan. Good morning, everybody. So first, thank you for waking up. I don't make no appointments before 10 o'clock. You can't make an appointment on my schedule calendar before 10 o'clock. So one, I also love y'all as well, because it's 9 o'clock isn't necessarily early. I most definitely wake up. I'm an early person. I wake up like 5 o'clock in the morning. I just don't want to talk to anybody before 10. So this is just a great honor to be here. This is my 3rd time, and Stephanie, who is the executive director of the Small Business Development Center, confirmed that I have spoke the most at Create Virginia, and I'm just so honored because it's always a good time. As you can see, today's topic is going to be about LLCs and EINs, and I know some of you guys might have them, some of you might not, and I hope that after I give you the presentation, I'll give you the more of the pros, not the cons, of why you should have these in place. and why the government almost is also requires for you to have them in place as well. Oh, come on. There we go. So what is an LLC? It is a limited liability company, not a corporation. And there most definitely is a distinction. And then something else I want to go deeper into, what does this, we already went over what it stands for, and how do you use it? An LLC by the IRS standings is a hybrid of a corporation and a company, well, a sole proprietorship, where you're mushed in the middle. It creates a lot of protections, and really it's a legality to create divide between your personal and your business. So for the structure part, the United States, you as an owner, you need to separate your personal and your business, and I'll tell you why. If you don't have a LLC at bare minimums, and most of the time the thought process is what is the liability of the business? So if you're selling cakes, you probably like, I don't think I need an LLC. Or if you're drawing pictures, I don't think I need an LLC. But hear me out here. If you don't have an LLC and you do face painting, and it might not seem that much of a liability, painting people's face, but then you come across someone, and trust me, I sell Mary Kay, and I've actually had this happen before, where the person was allergic to the Mary Kay stuff. Could they sued me? They could have. Would they've gotten any money? I'm not for certain because of the protections that Mary Kay has in particular. But if you have your own business and you're painting people's faces and someone decides to sue you, not only do you leave your business vulnerable, but you also leave your personal side vulnerable. And that's why it's important to have this LLC. It's more so the execution of it all. It's like a life insurance policy almost. You don't know that you need it until you need it, or it doesn't go into execution until it's time to use it. Now, it is also considered a disregard entity. And a lot of people use this word and say, well, what does that mean? It means that even though you have an LLC, you still are taxed as a sole proprietor. So there's nothing different between the two. And again, it goes back to what I said just a couple minutes ago. It is the legality of having an LLC. Now, how do you use this? An LLC simply just creates the structure. And if you have a business bank account, you have to have an LLC or something that distinguishes that you have reserved the name of your business. And you also have to have an EIN. And I hope that in your business, you're doing both, because you're running your business like a business and you're not commingling funds. Again, the legality of the situation is that you want to be protected in your business. And also, I'm going to go a little bit further. I don't want to dabble too much into it because it could be a whole conversation, because I do taxes. So that is my love language, talking about the monies. Is when you create systems like having an LLC, it also creates a structure where you create more entities that help you function your business. Because one of the top meanings and explanations of the IRS is running a business is to create a profit. And you can't create a profit if you have your personal and your business monies all collectively in one pot. So, and if you, I don't know if any of you guys applied for any PPP loans or EIDL loans, is you had to provide how much money your business made, for each of the quarters to see if you made a loss to qualify for these different grants and loans. You would not saying you couldn't have, but it probably was more work to try to figure out your numbers if you didn't have that kind of record keeping, having those entities separate like you should for an LLC. Now, the other part of this LLC as well that I want to go over is that if you have an LLC, but you are not keeping proper record keeping, you are what we call piercing the veil by law. So that means that you're not putting to practice the very nature of what the LLC is telling you to conduct by having different entities like a business bank account and a personal bank account, so that if someone sued you, the LLC is null and void because you're not practicing the thing that it was intended for. So if you have an LLC and you are not separating your files, then you're doing yourself a disservice. The LLC doesn't work for your business. You work the LLC by creating the structure and the business and the spaces that you need to in your business to make sure you have those things in place for those protections. Now let's talk about the tax liability of having an LLC. If you have an LLC, you're filing a Schedule C, and that's your business side. And then and then your personal side is your 1040 form. Everyone's filed their taxes this year, I hope so. And so one thing that people always talk about, because people like to throw out buzzwords, and I'm not opposed to that. You want to get a rise out of people. I hear a lot of people say you should create your entity as an S corp. Well, is you can actually file your business as an S corp and maintain an LLC status. And you just have to file 2 forms that your accountant or a CPA or tax professional should know. And a lot of people do that because it's actually more inexpensive to pay the $50 renewal fee for your LLC than it is to maintain the S corp. Because if you have an S corp, there's other paperwork you have to file with the IRS to stay in compliance with them. And most people, if you're not keeping good bookkeeping records now as an LLC, I can tell you for now, for sure, you are not ready to be an S corp, or at least you need to hire that space out. Now, I say that it's a double tax, but if you work a 9 to 5, and I would encourage you to look at your pay stub, look at your W-2 if you've worked a job. The employer pays 15.3% on your behalf for your taxes. And then you turn around and you pay 15.3% on your taxes. Well, that's the same way that your tax return is set up. So it's no difference. The structure is not different. You're not paying extra monies. It's just you probably might be in a higher tax bracket because of the way it's set up. When you file a Schedule C, you're going to pay for the business portion on the 15.3% on that Schedule C. And then whatever the gains are, you're going to pay 15.3% on your 1040 side. Now, of course, if you had a corporation, there is pass-through income entities where you don't have to. That's why they say that you don't have to pay as much if you're an S corp. But if you're not making a certain amount of monies, then I'm not saying it's not good it's not worth the hassle because of the extra paperwork, but it is a thought process. And for me as a tax professional, if you're not making at least $150,000, you shouldn't even be concerned about filing as an S corp. And also you have to consider the other side as you grow, right? Because you don't want to be an LLC for long. You want to put yourself on payroll. You want to be able to pay yourself a living wage and all that fun stuff. The other thought process is that you have to be giving yourself a livable wage. And if you're not making consistent income, that's not even I would say that's a conversation you need to put on the shelf for a later date. Not saying we can't have it, but you gotta think about it. Now, another big question that I always get, especially for single member LLCs, is how do I pay myself? Well, hate to bust your bubble, you can pay yourself, but it is the only deduction as a single member LLC that cannot be written off on your taxes. If you're an S corp, you can, because you'd be putting yourself on payroll and then you'd be getting a W-2 and paying Medicare and all the other expenses. But you can cut yourself a check. And what I do is I have a recurring deposit from my PayPal directly into my personal PayPal every 2 weeks, just like a job. Once my business was making enough money, making a profit for me to pay myself, I most definitely did that. And I'm on track to put myself on payroll and actually get a W-2 and be in a space where I can pay the taxes and all that other fun stuff, and also reap the benefits of getting that extra, lowering my taxable wage, because the business will be paying all the taxes on my behalf as the owner. And then I only have to pay the taxes on the disbursements and also the W-2 income that I made from the business. But you can pay yourself. That's the ultimate come about for me. And it's as simple as writing yourself a check. And the other thought process, even though we're not going to talk about it because these things are all connected as well, is you have to know your budget. You got to know your numbers. You running your business, if you're trying to scale it, you have to know how much money you bring in so that you know if you have enough money to pay yourself. Because I be totally transparent with you, I went full-time entrepreneur 4 years ago. I had saved up enough money, all the things. And a year to the date, I had to go back to a 9 to 5. I actually had to go back and I ended up cleaning toilets at a courthouse locally because I had spent all of my healthcare money, and I did not, I was counting my money to cover co-pays. Well, if you don't have health insurance, you have to pay the full amount. And I was not prepared for that. So I ended up spending my HSA money faster than I anticipated, because I most definitely, I go to the eye doctor every year. I go get my teeth cleaned, all those things. But I went to the drawing board and I said, I'm only going to work a job for a year and then I'm going to go back to entrepreneur full time. So if you don't know your budget, you're not going to be able to know how much you need to pay yourself to be able to sustain. So think about it too. When you're in business and you want to, when you're scaling, right, you also have to, as a single member LLC, how much money does it cost to pay all your bills in your household? So then how much money does your business need to make for you to pay yourself and to be able to pay all your overhead costs? That's a thought process. And that's why, again, a budget is very important. So you can piece your things together and you get to thinking about it. Your living cost is low key a indirect cost. So we want to think about how do you need to implement that cost into your service or your products. Because just including the inventory, just including how much it costs to ship the item to the customer, just including your time might not just be enough. And I think that's another place that a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in, because they're like, I'm charging too much for my item. Well, then you got to go to your research and development. Who's your target market? Who are you trying to sell to? And then once you start putting those things in place, you can start honing in on like, all right, I need to sell 5 paintings this month to meet my goals. Then you know what you're working towards. So it doesn't just feel like you're just doing, if that makes sense. Have you ever been in a space in your business where you feel like you're just doing, like you don't know your front to end, or maybe you're putting the horse before the buggy, as my grandfather would say. Now, strategies for tax planning. And I kind of already went into that because it's kind of hard to not talk about an LLC without talking about what is your responsibilities and what you're responsible for tax wise for your business, because you need to consider it. This is the other part too. When you're a business owner, you're getting all your money up front. So that means the government's saying, hey, me over here, you got to give me my cut. What does that look like? And it's best for you to be proactive instead of reactive when it comes to taxes, okay? So one way is when you are a Schedule C, because the government has increased the standard deduction on the personal side, and I haven't done a standard deduction for a client since 2017 for this very reason, is that you need to consider how do you do the switch so that you can maybe do something as a tax write-off on the business side instead of your personal, because you're not going to get the write-off because you don't meet the standard deduction, if that makes sense. So one thought process for me is next year I'll be purchasing the end of this year, beginning of this year, I'll be purchasing a new vehicle. Well, because I work for myself full time and I do 80% of my driving is for business, I'm going to use my EIN number. We're gonna hit this. You go get excited about this. I'm gonna use my EIN number for my business, and it's going to be my car is going to be a business expense. The business will be paying my lease for my car, and that's how you leverage yourself in your business. You know, sometimes I've been in business for so long and I don't have a lot of overhead costs. My thought process is like, how do I lower my taxable liability in my business? And this is one way you can do that. So another part too is, and I have a lot of clients who kind of struggle, especially ones who are very timid with their deductions. My thought process is it a business expense? Like, I understand you bought a rim of paper and you probably go print off a couple of things that are personal, but buy the rim of paper with the business expense. So then you can write all of the paper off. The IRS is not going to come for you looking for like, oh, you got a $500 500 rim pieces of paper, and we know that you use 25 of them for personal use. That's not how that works. you want to feel empowered and know what what's rightfully yours to count. The government has a publication called expenses that are when you conduct business, that are normal and ordinary expenses. So can I get a Bugatti car for my business? No, I'm gonna get something very sensible, right? So there is rules around it, but you as a business owner, and that's why it's important to have your business plan put together, you can create those rules. That's what your business plan is executing. So when you, every year whenever I do someone's taxes, I always go back and say, we're going to do a tax planning session, because the government's not going to tell you all the rules and regulations. And every year they change the rules. I'm a tax professional. I know that. Just like the new child credit. So especially for someone like yourself, if you file a Schedule C, there are other balls rolling around in this monopoly game that you have to consider to meet your end goal. For me, I don't like a refund for this very reason, because I don't want the government to be holding my money interest-free for a whole year for what I could be doing for the next year. Now, some people like refunds. It's a thought process to have. If you have a business and you have children, what will that look like if you get that child credit advance money starting July 15th? It's a thought process. Like what I like to do is present information and then let you have a thought process about what you want it to look like. And then we create a strategy on how do we get to that goal, because everyone's different. Everyone's different. Like I said, I don't like a refund. Some people like refunds. So it's a thought process. We're going to take a field trip. So I wanted to go over, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for like 2.5 seconds. I already have it pulled up. I wanted to show you how to apply for an LLC if you did not have one. So let me go back to sharing my screen. Oops, I think I can do this. Yeah, okay. Yay. We've been doing this for so long, I feel like a expert now. Okay. I'm gonna also send this information to either Susan or Stephanie. They're gonna send you some information. You guys can have these slides afterwards. But this is like direct information. I was like, I'm not recreating a wheel here. So I just wanted to give you the direct information from the SEC website, which is for Virginia. And I hope that all of you guys are from Virginia. Of course, every state is different. So if you need to get an LLC, you're gonna go onto the online site, which is the SEC, which is the State Commissioner Corporation.virginia.gov. You're gonna go to online services. I mean, they're giving you screenshots because the SEC changed their website 2 years ago, so it looks totally different than it did before. So this is a good handout to show you how to do an LLC altogether. Also, don't pay nobody to do your LLC. That they charge arm and a leg. It's so funny. I was creating my presentation, and when you're on Instagram, it shows you like little promotions or whatever, or things like that. And Damon Dash, who used to own Fubu and he's on Shark Tank, he has like a new service he's offering where you can get your LLC for, it says free, but then when you get to clicking on it, it says you have to pay the state fees. But then they start asking if you want to add these other services, and some of them are already included in your LLC, like your articles of organization, and some other things. So I thought it was very peculiar. Before you end, if you got all the additional services he was offering, you could end up paying, I know, probably easily, it was probably like maybe $800. I was like, that's crazy. So if you get your LLC on the SEC website, it is $100. And it's add this, it's $50 every year to renew. This is the part people forget. When I do file people's LLCs, I don't charge $800. I charge the time it takes me to do it, and that's it. But yeah, so when you do the LLC, you it's only $100, and then whatever address you put on here, the SEC is going to send you documentations about 2 months out and tell you, hey, it's almost time to renew. What happens is a lot of people don't designate the correct owner agent or don't put the right address. I don't know. They just putting in information, obviously, and people forget to pay their renewal fee, and they end up their LLC ends up becoming inactive. And I've seen that time and time again. I'm not for sure why people don't know that there's a renewal fee. It's not upfront information, and the SEC does not tell you that you have to renew it each year either. So maybe it's just information that has to be out. So I want you to be aware that you have to pay $50. So again, I'm a tax person. I'm about a budget. Okay. When you create your budget, you should put a month before your annual year, put $50 in your budget. So then you know anticipate how much money you're going to spend for that year because you already anticipated. I always am very confused, maybe because I'm just a type A kind of person. When people are like confused and bewildered when Christmas comes and like, oh, I haven't bought any Christmas gifts. It just snuck up on me. How did Christmas sneak up on you? It's December 25th every year. So another thing I do for clients is I also put it on their calendar. So I do an event, and it comes, and even if they discontinue services or not, I'm not their bookkeeper anymore, that thing will always be in their calendar because I automatically set it up as a reminder every year, a month prior to when they need to renew. So there's no excuses why you should not know you got to pay this $50. So I said all that to let's get into this online, how to register. So there's the online services on the top left, and then went too far down. Make sure under the Virginia entity button, you select limited liability, then articles of organization, and hit continue. This space right here is you're going to check to see if anyone has the name of your business. And this is another part to remember. I'm in the process of trademarking my business name because I don't want anyone to use it or the likeness of it. So when you get your LLC, it only protects you in the state that you obtain it from. So nobody in the state of Virginia can have your business name. Now, if you're going big gusto, you're thinking far out, you're creating some kind of content, like a class or something like that, you might want to consider trademarking it so no one else can use it. And again, that's another thought process. For me, it's not also about the numbers. It's also about what it is that you want, and then how much financial obligation is going to cost you in your business to be in that space. Trademarking it's not cheap, but it ain't expensive either. That's subjective. So, and it depends on where you are in your business. And then again, what the big picture is. So once you check to see if the business entity name is available, you can reserve it. I personally, like, if you're already in the space where you know that you want that business name, I say go ahead and purchase it, because you're just wasting money. You're going to pay, I want to say it's $25 to reserve the name, and then you still have to pay $100 to get the LLC. Let's go down a little bit. Come on. All right. After you check the availability, we're on number 11. You're going to put in your contact information, the industry you're in. This is when you're actually registering. Duration is typically, I'd always say forever. You don't have a dissolve date for your business at this current time. Your registered agent can be anybody. So you can be your own registered agent. This is the person who's going to get your documentation when it comes time to renew. So keep that in mind. If it's yourself, if you want to pay somebody else to be a registered agent, that's fine. Some people get lawyers, they do. But remember that they have that information. So you need to make sure you have that information. And then it just goes into more detail about how to register the individual agent and the capacity. It's pretty straightforward, like information, your address, and your address could be somewhere different than your actual physical address. Also keep in mind, this is public record. So if someone looked up your business and you put your personal address because you have a home-based business, it's going to be public. So I would suggest you could have one address, but you can put in a PO box for mailers and things of that nature. your principal address has to be your physical address for the business. So you're going to have to put down if you're a home-based business, your home. Don't want to go down too far. Okay. Then your management structure is either a member to member or manager to managed or member to manage. Most people are always a member and you're managing it. Now we can go into more details about that if you want to do that. All right, so under here, we upload the articles of organization. When you do your LLC, that's automatically going to be in that space. And when you open up your business bank account, they're going to ask for this information as well. Now, if I was creating someone's business on their behalf, or if you're doing your LLC for someone else, you'd be the individual or on behalf of the business entity. You're not actually someone who's in the business. You're just creating the LLC on their behalf, and they'll ask for your signature and things like that. You're going to put it into your cart. You're going to check out, and then you're going to pay. And as soon as you pay, it's going to give you all of your documents in your space, and it'll stay there forever and ever and ever. So you can always go back. And that's the end of that. All right, great. So let's go back to the presentation. If you guys have questions, put them in the comments, and we're gonna go. We'll have time to go over them too. And I'm kind of giving you guys a lot of information. How many of you guys already have LLCs? Tell me in the comments. All right, so we went on our field trip. And now it's time to talk about the EIN. And this is the fun part. Remember I was telling you how I was going to purchase a vehicle? I'm going to tell you how I'm doing it under my business information. So let's talk about what an EIN is in particular. It's an employer identification number. And I think when you say what it is, it's very deceiving, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't have employees. Well, the thought process for me is that you eventually want to be an employee of your business, correct? So having it is great. It's also free 99. I have heard horror stories of people paying people to give them their EIN. It don't cost you a dime. Don't ever pay anybody for an EIN if you don't already have one. Now, what's the purpose of the EIN? It's basically your business's social security number. And then also you can establish business credit on the EIN number. When you're creating the divide for your business, you have to have an EIN number to open up a business bank account. So it's necessary, and for tax purposes. And also it creates, again, another layering of that divide we talked about earlier. If you need money, a PPP loan or any business bank loan, a lot of them require that you have an EIN as well. Again, it's free. We're gonna take another field trip. I know. I thought about putting these pieces in my slides, but the pages directly from the website was just so much easier just to go straight there. So let's go back. I'm doing this with these. And sometimes it's hard. I'm a C learner, not just C, but like show me how to do stuff, and I want to show you how to do it. Okay, so you're going to go to irs.gov. That's our favorite space, and it has a lot of good information. Please visit it. Just even poke around, type in self-employment, type Schedule C, like look at all the things. There's no better space, not just to learn from people like me and Susan and other people who know the information, but to like look for it for yourself. Beyond Google, and that's another reason why some people pay for an EIN, because Google can be your best friend and your worst enemy. because there's just so much information and you don't know which one is right. But go directly to the source. The IRS is the ones who tell us how much we owe in monies and things of that nature. Go to the source. They have the resources to tell you. So if you go to the IRS.gov website and you type EIN in the search engine, this is what's going to pop up. Okay. And you can apply for your EIN right online and get it same day, just like your LLC. So you're going to hit this. It's going to say a couple things like to determine if you're eligible. Now you have to apply for it within this time frame. If you don't, you'll get an error message. Just FYI, I know some people don't. They're like, I tried to apply and it wouldn't pull up. Like, this is probably why. Okay. I'm not going to actually go into it because I'm not applying for one. It only let me go, but so far. But these are the questions they're going to ask you. And if I would not suggesting sending anything in paper to the IRS ever, even before COVID, it just takes entirely too long. If you also have a nonprofit, you have to file for an EIN. That is not even a request. It is something that you have to have. So it's going to ask you what's your legal name of your entity to have an LLC, what's your LLC's name. If you have a doing business name, which is the trade name, we didn't really go into that, but it's your address, city, state, name of responsible party. It is going to ask you for your social security number. It is attached to you, but that's fine. And I'm going to tell you why in a couple more slides. Is this application for a limited liability? That's going to be a yes. If it's a yes, how many people are in your LLC? If you're a single member, that's one. If you have a partnership, that's two, so on and so forth. It's going to ask you what kind of entity you are. You're going to be a sole proprietorship because you are a single member, unless you're a church or any of these other entities that it's distinguishing below here. I'm going to ask you what state, if you are a corporation, but we're doing single member LLCs. Reason for applying is starting a new business. It could be any of these answers. Any of these would be right, except the hired employees part, if you indeed are not hiring employees. But you only need to check one box. And then the date the business started acquiring. There's some other questions down here, like first date of wages, but we're not worried about employees at this particular time. It's going to ask you what kind of principal activity your business does. So if you're a creative, you probably are somewhere in, well, you could probably do any of these here, but I'd probably put other. I have a client who's a caricature, and he does drawings, so we put other. Indicate principal line of merchandise sold. Has the applicant entity shown on line one ever applied for and received an EIN? Because if you ever file bankruptcy, you're going to close the business with that EIN and you can start a new business with a new EIN number. And that's another reason why having an EIN is so important. We're not talking about failures. We're talking about things didn't work out. Okay, that's not necessarily a favor because you're starting over from experience, not from ground zero. And a lot of people close businesses. We know businesses close all together. I know we take things so much more personal because it's so close to us, but people close businesses all the time and start a new idea. People are serial entrepreneurs, and that's what happens. And that's why it's again a good reason to have an EIN number to separate your business from your social security number, because you're using all of your personal credit. You want to use the business's credit to build upon. And then if things don't work out, you can dissolve it that same way. If somebody else is applying for your EIN, there's a third party designee portion of it. And then this is just like more instructions and things of that nature. So when you apply online, you're going to go through all of these same question prompts, just like this form here says. So be familiar with that. Let's go back to the slides. I'm done with that. Oh, actually, I'm going to keep that up. Are you guys up? I know it's early. It's early. You guys are mighty quiet. All right. This is how you can get in contact with me. I have 2 podcasts, like Susan said earlier. One's called Financial Fancy. That podcast is very structural, very business, what you need to be doing. Business After Dark is more like my entrepreneur diary. It is the call out moments of my life when, I've given bad customer service, what that looked like, how did I remedy it? How do you tell who your target market is? How people slide in people's DMs and things of that nature. It's most definitely the diary of my entrepreneur life. Okay. It's the nitty gritty. You can also find me on Pinterest. I post where I'm going to be at on Pinterest, also on my Google business page as well. I'm on LinkedIn as Charese Chambers. Instagram is Financial Fancy LLC. My website is financialfancy.com, and you can email me directly at Charese@financialfancy.com. Hope that you guys stay in contact with me, follow me. I do Money Making Monday tips. So we talk about taxes, whatever's going on, whatever the IRS is telling me is going on that I need to tell y'all, because this is the part. The average person does not know what's going on in the IRS. I mean, let's be honest. And you need someone like me in your pocket to keep you abreast on what's going on so that you can make the right decisions on your everyday decisions you make in your business, because the decisions you make today in your business will be the repercussions of what you get in a couple of months, once all the dust settles, right? We were not planning for COVID. I wasn't. And here we are surviving on the other side of that. But I wonder how better positions most businesses would have been in if they had preparation of a budget or an LLC or an EIN or all the things that places have been asking them for to get some of this monies, and they were not prepared to do so. So although it seems like a very simple part of your business, I hope that it's something I said resonated with you. And if you do need help with any of those things, that I am more than happy to help. So we'll get to the question part. Susan, take it away.
Thanks, Charese. That was so informative. We really appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions? I haven't seen any in the chat, so. Well, Charese, I think maybe you were just so thorough that no one had anything pop up.
Yeah. Oh, some popping up in the chat.
Well, Miriam says that was great and thank you so much.
Oh, great. Good.
Well, perfect. Just to remind everybody again, we will go ahead and get this recording uploaded onto our YouTube channel and send out a link to that either later today or tomorrow, as well as the slides from Charese. We do have more upcoming webinars. We have one that is on understanding unemployment assistance programs for artists, so specifically artists and performers. That is going to be on July 13th, I believe. You can visit createvirginia.com to learn more about that. And we'll be adding more. We'll have some more coming through July that we are working on. And our keynote speaker is going to be talking about NFTs in August. So that is also live and you can register for that. So make sure you visit our website. And if you have any questions for Charese that come up later, please go ahead and reach out to her directly. I will also include her email and all of this information more directly in case you need it.
You can slide in my DMs too. I do answer my own DMs still. So.
I mean, for now, until you just level up, and then you're going to have to hire someone else on to answer your DM.
There we go. There we go.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here, and we hope to see you again soon.